we are also going to have a bit of a look at not just the March for Humanity, which we'll do first, but also the news released today from the UN that, surprise, surprise, it's a genocide. Like most of us have been saying for many, many years, the UN is finally saying, and it seems like those who are trying to push back on those words are going, nah, it's not. And that's about all they seem to have. And we go, well, 121 genocide scholars and academics. The United Nations says 4 out of 5 categories. So that's what we're bringing to the table to decide. What are you bringing to the table? Yeah, it's just not. I don't think it is, because I heard someone on this right-wing podcast say it's not. So it can't be. It's not. So what we'll do with that is we will welcome to the show the spokesperson for the March for Humanity. It is Nadine Mortaja. And Nadine joins us right now. Kia ora, good evening, and thanks for giving us some time. How you doing?
Thanks, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Weird question.
Yes.
But someone who's in this fight, sort of on the front line of Palestinian voices, support for Palestine, how do you react to that news today about the UN saying is this like a good day, or is it like, because of what they're talking about, it's always a bad day?
I think it's welcome to the party. It's been happening for 2 years. I mean, it's quite a shame that it's taken them 2 years to declare that it is a genocide. But I think the people have woken up, the people have spoken. We also have seen a big shift in media as well, and journalists and the questions they ask, because very early on in the event of October the 7th, a lot of the questions were centered around that. But I think people need to realize why this happened, because the Palestinians have been living under a horrendous occupation for the past 77 plus years, and Gaza has been under a complete siege since 2006. So everything is controlled in Gaza, everything that comes in and out by land, sea, air. So they were pretty much living in an open air prison. Palestinians couldn't travel in and out of Gaza easily. So welcome to the party. I mean, good morning. But yeah, it is a bit of a shame that it has taken this long, but something's happened, and hopefully our governments now do something and sanction Israel for its war crimes.
Well, let's have a look at the story from today. This is going to be focused around the UN and what they've declared today. And then we can talk a bit about the march and the organising of it. I know that you guys are saying it's probably one of the biggest marches Auckland's ever seen, estimated 50,000 people. I think they reported 20,000, but, we can look at that. And yeah, we'll go from there. So let's hear One News's report tonight on what's happening in the Middle East right now.
Winston Peters has labelled David Seymour youthful and inexperienced, dismissing the ACT leader's views on what it would take to recognise Palestine as an independent state. It comes as the Foreign Affairs Minister prepares to lay out New Zealand's position at the UN next week. Political editor Mikey Sherman reports.
Tension on the streets in Aotea Square over the weekend. And tension amongst the coalition.
And the point is that a statement was made by someone who's got no authority to make it, and that's why we're putting the record straight now.
Calling out his government partner after David Seymour yesterday suggested recognising Palestine should only happen on the release of Israeli hostages.
Yeah, we're not going to recognise a state that's currently weaponising hostages, holding people for years on end in absolutely inhumane conditions. I mean,
it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because if the government is deciding if they're going to recognise Palestine, I'm assuming they need Seymour's, vote. And the way he's speaking right now seems to be hinting towards, I mean, it would be strange for him to go, I don't think we should recognise Palestine. Oh yeah, I said yes. That wouldn't make sense. So it is interesting that he's coming out and saying this when next week Winston Peters is going to reveal all. I don't know why they haven't done it, but I mean, I'm not sure what they're playing at here. I'm not sure whether this is politicking by David Seymour because he's already in election mode, or what, or whether he's going to cuck out next week and do what Daddy Luxon says. Not sure.
I guess when we talk about the hostages, like, yes, we do want all the hostages to be released, but that also includes the 11,000 Palestinians that are in Israeli detention centers. And I think people need to realize that that is one of the main reasons why October the 7th happened. It's because all these Palestinian prisoners are in Israeli detention centers, and that includes lots of children as well. There are areas in Palestine that Palestinians can't go in because they're not allowed to go on that specific street. So if you're a Palestinian child and you're seen on that street, they can put you in an Israeli detention center, and no one is held accountable for that. You know, they abuse them, they torture them, they sexually abuse them. But why isn't anyone talking about the Palestinian prisoners as well? So yes, we do want the release of all hostages, but that also includes the 11,000 Palestinians that are in Israeli detention centers. Yeah.
It's very selective framing, and I think it's very interesting. It's just evidence, really, that he's not listening to any of you, isn't it? He hasn't listened for the last few years, and he's still not listening. And this is just evidence of that. And I think it's really sad for our Deputy Prime Minister to not be listening to the leaders of this movement, the people that actually know what it's like there.
Yeah. Well, this whole government's an anti-intellectual government anyway. We know that already. We'll keep playing the story and see what else they've got to say.
Would recognise that?
Well, that is not the government's position. The government's position is articulated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's the agreed situation. And for the second time, someone is talking out of his field.
When asked if Peters would speak to Seymour,
look, we're not dealing with in loco juventus. You know what that means in Latin?
it means youthful and inexperienced.
Well, I was asked, I think, by you what X position is, and I think that's pretty clear.
We don't have a position on the matter individually. We have a government position. I've made that very clear. See the difference?
Asked if David Seymour was breaching cabinet collective responsibility.
Gee, it took you a long time to find that out, didn't it? Gee.
Yeah, oh, fair enough. But I mean, you know, all three of us at different times speak on behalf of the government. Other times people say, well, what do you think?
The ACT Party has plenty of thoughts. After this protest on the weekend, MP Simon Court tweeted, playing Tero dress-up on weekend, referring to the keffiyeh scarves often worn by Green MPs.
A bit of mockery for people that dress up in a uniform that is actually a terrorist uniform, I think deserves a bit of mockery, and they got it.
Mockery, it seems, is a two-way street. Mikey.
That was obviously half the story that focused on our politics. I'll go and find, whilst we're talking, a more focal point on what's happening in the Middle East. But yeah, Nadine, I don't know whether he was referencing the Green MPs and the Labour MPs playing Tero dress up. How do you respond to that? Because he's talking about you guys. You were there on the weekend. Yeah,
I mean, if you want to call children terrorists, if you want to call teachers, nurses, doctors, then sure, 50,000 people here in Tamaki Makaurau are quote-unquote terrorists, I guess. I mean, I know, children that came to the protests. I know, teachers, union members, politicians came to this. So are you implementing that all these people are part of a terrorist group? It's quite insulting. Naturally it is insulting, but I guess it just shows these people don't really have a lot going on up there. But yeah, if you want to call 50,000 people that are mobilizing for our government here to sanction Israel for its war crimes, when they bombed hospitals, when they bombed schools, when they bombed people's homes, when they've buried so many innocent Palestinians, then sure, 50,000 of us are quote unquote terrorists. It is quite insulting, but I mean, with all these people, we don't really expect much from them. But I mean, when we came in the masses, I think it really shocked the government here, and it showed them that we will continue to mobilize in masses. We will continue to close down these streets until we see action, because words at this point are not enough. We need action, and the most appropriate action at the moment is to sanction Israel for its horrendous war crimes.
Yeah, it's been quite amazing, and I'm sure this happening around the country, but here in Dunedin, in the Octagon, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Since the weekend of, and people every single week. And it does feel like there's a bit of a ramping up. It feels like there is a second wave of energy coming for this fight. I've got the clip about the Middle East, but why don't we do this? Let's talk about the protest and what you guys are looking for first, and then we'll go to the UN stuff. So, Nadine, what exactly, like if you could wave your magic wand, what exactly do you want the government to do? What are you trying to force their hand to do via pressuring them and things like this protest?
Yeah, our main demand, it's simple: sanction Israel for its war crimes. I mean, we've been witnessing a genocide that's been happening for the past 2 years. There's a man-made famine happening since August. 500,000 people in Gaza are facing catastrophic hunger. We've seen children's rib cages through our phones. It's 2025 and we are experiencing this. I mean, when the Holocaust happened, people didn't know what was happening because there was no social media. You couldn't really see what was happening. Whereas now we see it so clearly and it's black and white. You are either on the right side of history or you're not. It's that simple. Innocent children, more than 20,000 children have been slaughtered, more than 60,000 innocent lives have been lost. So now it's enough with the talk. It's time for us to put sanctions, and that is to sanction Israel for its war crimes. I mean, Spain sanctioned Israel just last week. So why can't we be proud of our history here in Aotearoa and say we did something in 2025 and 2024 and 2023 when we did see something happening in Gaza, these horrific war crimes, and we sanctioned them because we stood on the right side of history. We want to look back at our history in 10 years' time and say we did something, not we were waiting for Canada or Australia to do something. We led with our own government and we did something. So it's enough of the talk. It's enough of it's enough. I think we're sick and tired of it. We've been protesting for 2 years now. It's been 102 weeks of us closing down the streets. We've protested, we've mobilized, we've campaigned to boycott Israeli products. We've written to our MPs, yet we haven't seen much come out of it. So right now, the action is to sanction Israel for its war crimes.
So you've said something really interesting amongst that really interesting response about the social media. It just makes me think, if there was social media when the Holocaust was happening, would it have made a difference, or would enough people have just chosen to be what I would consider today willfully ignorant and willfully blind that it wouldn't have made any difference? I think that's a really interesting kind of thought process to see what they would have thought about it. Yeah, I know, interesting. Yeah, Bree, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I feel like it's just ridiculous. You've been obviously on the street mobilizing people for 2 years. No one's listening. At what point, at what point do we call a spade a spade? Like it is a genocide. Thank goodness for people like Chloe Swarbrick who call it what it is. I would like to see more MPs have a spine and do something about this. Like you said, sanctioning Israel for its war crimes. It's a simple request. There's a lot of trade that happens through the canals around that area. I have a lot of thoughts, honestly.
You're in the right place then, Bree. This is the place for lots of thoughts.
Yeah, it just makes me angry, honestly. When they listen,
Yeah, I mean, if it makes you angry, can you imagine us, Palestinians? I am from Gaza. I am Palestinian, I had my uncles living there in Gaza. They left, early on of the genocide, but, we're very lucky that they left. But a lot of people didn't leave. A lot of people didn't want to leave as well. We've seen these videos of 10-year-old kids saying, we are not leaving this land. This is our land. We're not leaving this land. So if a 10-year-old is saying that, it pushes me to keep going. It pushes me to keep demanding for our government here to do something, because we are in a privileged position. We live in our homes. We're very safe. We live very far away from all of this, but just because we're a small country, it doesn't excuse the fact that we can just sit back and relax and not do anything about it. We are a small country, but we are also a mighty country, and we've always stood with justice. We've always stood on the right side of history. So why is this different? Is it because they're Palestinian? Is it because they're Arab? Is it because they're Muslim? Because let's be honest, if this was happening to any Western country, nobody would stay silent. The world would flip their shit, So why are we staying silent in the case of Palestine? And it's not complicated. It's not.
Yeah.
It's black and white.
It is strange how there is that kind of different purposes, or kind of a dual standard we hold each other to, or countries to. I said last night, if any other country in the world had sent missiles into its 6 neighbours, they wouldn't be the ones that we were thinking were in trouble. I'd like to know from you, Nadine, because you're much more intimately intertwined with the response from New Zealand. Why do you think there's a fresh energy coming now? We see it at the protests. The numbers are going up. What's happening to cause, I guess, a bit of a revitalization of the numbers and a bit of a push upwards of the numbers of protesters and voices we're hearing supporting Palestine?
Yeah, good question. I think very early on, a lot of people didn't know what Palestine was. When I was born in Tamaki Makaurau, but I lived in the Middle East most of my life. So when I came back for uni, to study. And I would meet people and say, "Oh, I'm from Palestine." A lot of people didn't know what Palestine was. A lot of people would say Pakistan, and I'm like, "No, Pakistan is a lovely country, but I'm not from Pakistan. I'm from Palestine." So I think a lot of people didn't actually know what Palestine was. And when you first kind of see what happened on October the 7th, it's like, oh wow, like how could these people do that? But when you really like learn the history and the occupation and the fact that it's been happening for years and decades since 1948, it's happened 77 years ago in the Nakba when 750,000 Palestinians were exiled out of Palestine and they had to go to neighboring countries, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan. But people didn't know that. So I think once October the 7th happened and people saw that, yes, it is a tragedy. Nobody wanted it to happen. But I think once people started to learn and also unlearn things that they were taught, I think it's opened up people's eyes. And also, since August, there has been a man-made famine happening. No food aid trucks has entered Gaza since August. So there are 2 million people that are living in the Gaza Strip, and 500,000 of them are facing catastrophic hunger. They are in the brink of starvation. And people actually have died of starvation in Gaza. Children have died from starvation. So I think there has been this shift in the movement, and people have opened up their eyes. And we've been closing down the streets for 2 years. It's hard for you to ignore us. There's been lots of events. There's been a lot of gigs. There's been a lot of restaurants as well that have hosted fundraisers. So I think you are really living under a rock if you don't know what's happening in Palestine and haven't seen it in Tamaki Makoto. So I think there has been that shift of energy, and people have been coming in the masses now and mobilizing.
Can we do one thing? Because there may be someone going who's still like, no, I don't really get the what is Palestine thing. Why don't we just use 60 seconds now? Nadine, explain to everyone, if they don't understand what Palestine is, explain it to them. Then there's no reason for anyone at least watching this to be confused.
Yeah, so I mean, Palestine is a country. It's a country in the Middle East. I mean, just like I said, in 1948, Palestinians, we live a normal life. And, people used to live in Gaza and then in Palestine. And what happened was in 1948, Jewish people came and Palestinians accepted them with open arms. You can even see these photos, these old photos of Jewish people coming in to Palestine in ships, and they took them in. And then slowly what happened was Israelis started taking people's land, a little bit here, a little bit there. They started kicking people out of their homes, and they were backed up by the US, a very big, strong country. So no one held them accountable. And there's this video that I remember I watched when I was maybe 12 of this man from the US. He's a Jewish man from the US. And he said like, oh, like, I'm coming to take your home. And the lady was like, yeah, but this is my home. Like, and he's like, oh, but if I don't take it, someone else will. Because it was very normalized that you can just come and take a Palestinian's home and no one would tell you anything, because there was the backing of the US, there was IDF soldiers, so they can easily just kick you out of your home. But us Palestinians, we do believe in the right of return, which is why a lot of Palestinians still have the keys to their homes. So if you see the key, It's a big symbol of the right of return, because we do believe in that we will return to a free Palestine. And, we were robbed of the opportunity to live in Palestine. I'm Palestinian, I'm from Gaza. I've only been to Gaza once before in my life. So imagine that feeling, me being a Palestinian, only being allowed into my homeland once in my life. And it wasn't like let's take a plane and get to Gaza. Like, no, it was a lengthy interrogation process. We had to go through the Rafah border. We had to take a bus to the Rafah border. So our whole life, it's just not fair, but Palestine lives within us, Palestinians, and we will not stop until, there is justice for the Palestinian freedom, and there is freedom for the Palestinian people, because we are not free until we're all free. So, yeah.
When I was looking for an image of you to use in my thumbnail, I came across this.
Oh, yes.
And now it makes sense.
The right of return. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so
Wow.
I did this photo shoot with one of my good friends, Ray. And yeah, so the key symbolizes the right of return. And because we do believe that we will return to a free Palestine one day. Yes.
I'd like to move on, but to the UN decision today. But before we do that, Bree, thoughts, ideas, questions, comments?
Yeah. it's just very interesting seeing the response to the Ukraine war compared to this from our government. I think it's very intriguing, kind of the citizenship and the visas and things that we've offered to people that are experiencing those war crimes, but not this one. And I think that's just worth pointing out. Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It's just absolutely horrible. And it's very interesting, the similarities to New Zealand's history with the land being stolen. That kind of gives me a little bit of insight as to maybe why it's been such a big movement here as well. People can kind of understand that feeling of not feeling, safe necessarily in your home or respected. So,
it also makes me think, Bree, I'm not Māori, I'm not whakapapa to any bloodline, but understanding a little bit about how Māori think of the land, how that's when I hear you speaking, Nadine, about the connection to the land 10-year-old. I actually think about how Māori feel connected to this land. That's my kind of understanding of it. So it is sad, but I think we got to do this bit about the Middle East because it's a really big story today. It's about 3 more minutes. You okay for another 5 minutes or so, Nadine?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So again, this is the same One News story. Just we're going to back it up, and we shall have a look at the announcement from the UN today and what's happening in the Middle East conflict right now.
Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in occupied Gaza.
And that's all we need to see. That's the end of the... No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Mic drop.
That's the conclusion of an independent United Nations inquiry, deemed the body's most authoritative finding to date. The Commission finding Israel has committed 4 of the 5 genocidal acts defined under international...
Sorry, I do always like to do this. There is some photos and imagery in this video of buildings and stuff coming down. If you find that to be confronting or whatever, you're welcome to switch off for 2 or 3 minutes, come back. We'll toilet break time, we'll go get a cup of tea, just in case. You don't see, I don't think there's any blood and guts in this or anything. There's no people, but it's still confronting when you see a building go down in a neighbourhood where people are walking up the streets. Just a trigger warning, basically.
National law since the Hamas-led terror attack in 2023. Those are killing members of a certain group, including targeting civilians, causing them serious bodily and mental harm, including mass forced displacement, deliberately inflicting conditions calculated to destroy the group, such as blocking aid, and imposing measures to prevent births.
Yeah, and so this is, I'm not the expert here, but this is for people watching when people say, why is it considered a genocide? There's 5 key markers. These are 4 of them, which this fills out. And obviously the one down the bottom, imposing measures to prevent births. Hospitals are being bombed and taken down. Now, obviously, that's not just to prevent births. It's to stop people getting any kind of medical attention. But the part that links directly to a genocide is trying to wipe out a people group. And so that's why it specifically talks about births rather than just any medical aid. So that's what that is.
Israel was rejecting the report as distorted, false and anti-Semitic blood libel. It was launching a ground offensive on Gaza City, which it says is the last major Hamas stronghold. Hospitals in Gaza's largest urban centre reporting the deaths of nearly 70 Palestinians in 24 hours after an aerial bombardment, with many thousands more fleeing south from Israel's assault and famine. Corazon Miller reports.
Gaza City under fire. Israel backing up weeks of heavy aerial bombardment with tanks on the streets. The expansion of its offensive making an intolerable life in the rubble impossible.
How long will we remain like this? We've had enough. We no longer have the energy.
Local health authorities reported dozens killed overnight, among them women, children, elderly.
I swear it is not their fault. Let us live.
Israel says it's doing what needs to be done to achieve.
Just notice, talking about Israel and America, notice what they're driving there, whānau. That would be a Humvee. That would be an American transporter for a desert storm. So there's American machinery in the Israeli invasion of Gaza.
Israel says it's doing what needs to be done to achieve its war goals.
The objective of the operation is the return of hostages and the defeat of Hamas in Gaza City.
But Israel's widening response to the Hamas-led terror attacks is drawing mounting condemnation. The latest from a UN Commission of Inquiry that says Israel is committing genocide in Gaza.
Genocidal intent was the only reasonable inference that could be drawn from a totality of the evidence.
Among its findings, Israeli security forces carrying out sexual and gender-based violence, directly targeting children with intent to kill, and executing systematic and widespread attacks on religious, cultural and educational sites in Gaza.
Today we witness in real time how the promise of never again is broken and tested in the eyes of the world.
Israel has forcibly rejected the report.
These claims in the report rely on misleading statistics, unfounded apocalyptic projections based on weak data, on the conflation of credible and unverified evidence.
But Israel's own narrative is losing traction even among its own people, many fearful of what a ground assault means for the remaining hostages.
We are demonstrating here in order to convince our crooked government to stop the war.
But right now, as those calls are ignored, it's Palestinians once again facing mass upheaval.
We are exhausted. We are unable to live. We cannot keep moving from one place to another.
In search of what many fear doesn't exist, safe haven on this small strip of land under tightening siege. Corazon Miller, One News.
So that's the end of that part of the conversation. Nadine, you throw it to you first. You know, the UN has said yes, officially, genocide. Israel has gone, nah. Where does that leave us?
I mean, truly, like, no words, right? So does that mean the UN is lying? Does that mean all the images and videos and news have been lying? I think we have seen a very big shift in the media here in New Zealand as well, and how they report what's happening in Gaza. I mean, yeah, they are committing a genocide. What else can we say, right? And when they keep playing the quote-unquote Hamas narrative, you know, I mean, they just bombed a Freedom Flotilla boat in Tunisia in the middle of the ocean. They bombed Syria. They bombed Lebanon. They've bombed their negotiators in Qatar. Like, why is no one holding them accountable? They are a rogue state. They are a terrorist state, and someone needs to hold them accountable, right? And that's why we need to do something as people. We need to tell our governments here to sanction them for their war crimes, because enough is enough. Like, what? I mean, seeing these videos and pictures of like people being displaced time and time again, like, yes, we are sick and tired of it. The people in Gaza were living under a siege, but they were still living a life. You know, they went to restaurants, they went to cafes, they had weddings, they had jobs, they had dreams, children went to school. You know, they were living a life, as unfortunate as it was that they were living under a siege. But yeah, it's just, yeah.
Bree, any thoughts?
Yeah. Denial doesn't mean that it's true. Like, it's very interesting that they just deny what the UN says and pick and choose what they think is right from the UN and what's, you know, baseless. I just think, obviously, the leader of whatever country that is committing war crimes never thinks that they're committing war crimes. Hitler didn't think he was a bad guy, you know? I think he did in the end, but yeah, I just think that's an interesting kind of perspective to have, to just kind of put down anything that the UN says. Like, they are our international body representatives, and if they say that is a genocide, then it's a genocide. You can't just deny it. That doesn't mean that you're right.
Yeah, and I think Bree, you made a really good point earlier about, you know, when the Russia-Ukraine war was happening, you know, New Zealand did, you know, grant visas for families that had family in Ukraine. They sanctioned Russia for its war crimes very early on. So why is there this double standards? You know, like, I know, like, people here, like families here in Tamaki Makaurau that did apply for their family to come from Gaza, but you know, it was denied. And we've gone to Erica Stanford, we've talked to her, we've gone outside her office and we've protested, but we haven't seen anything come out of this government. So enough is enough. The people are tired, we're tired, and it's time for us to do something about it.
Hey, Nadine, I've got one more question for you. It's a bit out of left field, but I just thought about it as I was watching that, because we're talking about, putting pressure on the government. The community you're in, and I'm not looking for your voting record, I think the community that I hear who are protesting loudest about what's happening in the Middle East, some of them haven't been that bigger fans of Labor either. I think Labor have been too centrist on this. How do you feel personally, and what do you hear from your community? Chewie came out yesterday saying this was on the ballot last time around, that we would have recognised Gaza. We will do it again. How do you feel, Nadine, no, I don't know your personal opinion necessarily about your voting record, but what does it feel like your community is feeling about who will more than likely, almost guaranteed, be the biggest party on the left after the next election? Would have to be the ones, if there was a left government, to lead this conversation around Gaza. Do you trust them? Are you comfortable with where they are? What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's hard to say we trust them. I mean, very early on, we had Phil Twyford come to one of our protests, and he got booed off the stage because it was very like a neutral kind of, it was a lot of to do with the hostages. And yes, we do want the release of all hostages, but very early on, tensions were very high. So I don't want to speak for my community, but I think I was feeling some type of way about it. And I mean, he did get booed off of the stage, and he had to get escorted by police to his car because people were not happy about it. And I mean, it did take them it took them a long time to even say the word genocide. I mean, we saw Chris Hipkins say it, but it was also like with a bit of reluctancy. So, I mean, we're not happy about it. Well, I'm not happy about it. A genocide is a genocide. A spade is a spade. Call it what it is, right? Enough is enough. So, I mean, welcome to the party. It's taken you a long time, but yeah.
Anything you want to tell us about coming up? What's happening this weekend? Any actual big focal points for the next wee while?
Well, we do have a petition that we've launched on Saturday morning, and it is a petition to sanction Israel for its war crimes. So sign the petition. You can find it on the Instagram page, Aotearoa for Palestine. It's in the link in the bio. And we are planning on marching on the Harbour Bridge soon, very soon. So we will let everyone know when the date is finalized. But yeah, we will continue to mobilize. We will continue to protest until our government here sanctions Israel for its war crimes. But yes, sign the petition. We need to let our government know that this is what the people in Aotearoa want. And so far, it has almost 12,000 and more signatures. So
amazing.
Picking
Excellent.
up. So yeah.
All right, Nadine. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you giving us some time tonight. Spokesperson for the March for Humanity, Nadine Mortaja. And mate, we'll talk to you again soon. Definitely again this year.
Amazing. Yeah.
All the best.
For having me.
All right. Thanks, Nadine. Appreciate it.